I hope you're having an amazing day. My name is Colin Dijs and this is the Failure to Success playlist video 2. In this series I show you all my many failed business projects and how it turned into my great success over a period of 10 years. If you haven't watched the first video of this playlist, I recommend you to watch that first so you have a good understanding how it all started. In this video, I'll talk about one of my favorite stories to talk about, one of my inspirational, motivational stories, because it was a long time ago. It was about a real passion project for me, and it made me, at that time, a lot of money. So it's all about trading card games. What you realized in the previous video, one of the biggest lessons that I had was that I knew that I needed to have a connection with the audience, which was extremely important. I need to understand what people want, what they need, what they like. So basically, in 2011, as a follow-up to our previous experiences from the first video, I started looking at what I like to do within my passions where I can find opportunity. At that time, I was a huge fan of video games, especially the World of Warcraft game. I purchased the World of Warcraft online MMORPG game about 3 months after the initial release of the first base game. And of course, we all know the tremendous story. Over the years, they came out with a lot of different type of games, but they also had a trading card game, right? I wasn't really attached to that game, but let me explain you how it evolved. So within this online world, right, where you play with mythical characters, you can communicate with other people. It's like a role-playing game. There is also an auction house where you can buy and sell goods. So that was one of my favorite parts of the game, because inside the game you have gold in which you can buy stuff that other people don't have, which makes you feel superior, right? So I bought a lot of items, I sold a lot of items, and I understand the trick of buying at market value and selling above market value. This is one of the skills that a video game taught me, where in real life I also, in the many years later, have a huge substantial benefit from, right? Learning how supply and demand works. Anyway, I turned 10 gold into 100,000, and then I started to realize, hey, there are a lot of expensive items which are basically the maximum price. Why are they so expensive, right? They were special items that you could use, and these items came from a trading card game. So obviously I was like, if I can get these items, I can sell them for a lot of gold, and then I am basically the master in this game. That's how it all started, right? When I was looking into this trading card game, so I have one of the examples right here. It's called lootcards.com. What these loot cards are, they're basically special cards which belong to a series. So for example, all these are like individual released series. So there were many different types of cards over the years. And it's basically a game that you can play, like Pokemon cards, like Magic the Gathering, a trading card game, right? Also collectibles. And each of the releases had like specific cards with them. So if we look up, let's say, a specific expansion, it shows, I think once you look at this, okay, so this card, one box, I think has something like 24 or 36 booster packs, and the rarity is 1 in 121 booster packs. So it's quite rare, right? Once you go more up to the more expensive ones, which this one is about $150, it's 1 in 484 booster packs. So when you go to the later editions, they change the rates a little bit. So this is 1 in 11 booster packs, that's why it's quite cheap, right? But this one is still $400 and it's 1 in 264 booster packs. So it really depends on supply and demand, because this one is easier to get, but it's yet more expensive than this one, for example, because people just don't like this one as much. Basically, all the most expensive cards are like mount rideable objects inside the game, which you can show off to your friends, which was great, right? So I started getting interest for this. I was like, if I can do this in an in-game auction house, I might as well be able to do it online with real money. Why not? So I started searching where I could buy these cards. Unfortunately for me, in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, where I'm from, they were extremely expensive, right? So trading cards here are not cheap. They're not that popular even. Like a pack of Pokemon cards is like $5 for like one pack. The World of Warcraft cards were nowhere available at the time, so I had to look somewhere else. And of course, I looked online. I ended up at DACardworld.com. I tried many different places. A lot of them didn't have consistent inventory, but this shop did. At the moment, I think they have no more World of Warcraft cards, at least not the boxes that I was interested in here. So they do have, no, everything is gone, all empty. I checked about 2 months ago when I was thinking of recording this series. They had some, but now it's all sold out. It's all gone basically. But back in the day, they had a tremendous amount. So what I decided to do is I decided to do a test run, right? I spent about $200 for some boxes. I think it was this series, the one I just showed you before, Drums of War, because it was really cheap. The booster boxes itself, they were really cheap. So basically what you get is you get a box and you open this and you open the packs and you look for the good cards. So you end up with a lot of trash cards, and of course I had to sell these, but I was looking for these loot cards, what they're called, because they are worth a lot of money. And I basically made the calculation, if I buy this many packs, the odds are this, then what is the outcome, and I gave that a shot. So they shipped it with like UPS all the way from the United States to the Netherlands, and I didn't have to pay any tax because they marked it as a gift the first time, very important. Right, so I opened these cards, I sold them online. I even sold them on the website I showed you guys before, right? The Dutch website where you can sell stuff. This one, which I showed in the first series, is basically marketplace.nl, where you can sell secondhand goods. So for me, it was very important because I bought new product, which I opened up, which makes it secondhand. So I could sell it basically tax-free, right? So I had an eBay account. I had a marketplace account, and even on this marketplace I was also buying loot cards if I could see them for very cheap, because people didn't understand the value. So I bought like these cards, which were usually the second level, not the third level, because people like to keep these themselves. But I bought this card, for example, for $10, and then I would flip it at the time for like $40. The $30 gain at that time was really good for me, right? But anyway, I got these boxes shipped to me. All right, so now I'm opening these boxes. I have all these cards. I have the cool cards. I enjoyed the process. I love the process because I love this game, right? But I was focused on the money from the start. So it wasn't about using these cards for me. Yes, it was about finding the most expensive card and then selling it for profit. That was the only goal that I had at the time. And if you look at my emails, which is a Hotmail I don't even use anymore, from 2014, 2011, there's literally hundreds and hundreds of email communications about me selling these cards online, whether it's like Marketplace, eBay, DACardworld support, other websites where I look for basically people who want to sell me cards, who can buy me cards. I was really involved in this. It was like a full part-time gig for a student, right? I was really loving the pace and how everything worked. So what I did was I needed to get more people to look at my stuff. So I started a YouTube channel, right? Back in the day, all I did was I put the camera in front of me, so it was looking away from me. I had my hands here and I opened the packs. I might play some clips while I'm talking right now. What happened was I pulled the loot cards, the most expensive cards, and people would see these videos. So I would upload the video about the same day, and at the end of the day it was sold. Right, so I understood that content, audience, sales, they were all interlinked as a huge marketing operation, right? So I invested 200, I made 400. I invested the 400, I made 800. And I understood the trick here. In the process, obviously, I learned what to buy, which cards, which decks, and which ones not to buy, right? And it gave me a good opportunity. So obviously, even when I look at these cards, I had like 5 of these, I had 1 of these, 2 of these, I had 3 of these. I didn't have this one, I didn't have this one, because these were all the newer sets, so I didn't buy those, I bought all the old sets. And this is basically the most expensive card in the game, the Spectral Tiger, right? Right now it sells for about 8,500. I looked it up, 7,600, 7,000. So they are really expensive. Even Dave and Adam's Card World is the seller. So they have one in stock, but it's not on their website. Or maybe I should look somewhere else. Maybe I type it here. You can see that I even searched here before. Loot card. Maybe they have some. Yes, see, they have some in stock, but only the loot cards, no longer the boxes. You can see that they're really expensive. But yeah, people who like game have passion for this and they buy this stuff, right? Makes sense. So it went a lot further for me because at this time I started playing around with Excel. So if you watch any of my advertising videos, you know I love Excel. I love to make formulas. I love to make calculations. And these were odd-based calculations. How many times do I need to buy a booster box in order to get a specific outcome, which are the loot cards? How much are they worth? And then I return that to the cost of the overall processing. This was obviously quite smart thing to do because at that point I had guaranteed outcome, how I understood which ones to buy, which ones not to buy to receive that guaranteed outcome or better, right? Because at the end of the day, it's still gambling, right? So if you run the kite, it might say 1 in 363 booster packs, but if you buy a box of, let's say, 100 packs, you might get 2 or you might get 0. Right? It really depends. I have always been quite a lucky person. So for me, it tends to work out really well. And most of my calculations, I basically had some form of a break-even analysis, which then was very beneficial, right? Once I started more maturing in this, making these calculations, I also found that this specific card, which is 1 in 484 booster packs, the Fires of Outland series, because everybody wants this card, is extremely expensive. So a booster box, which holds maybe 48 packs, the booster box itself, this one, is already like 200 bucks, right? 400 bucks at the time. So I think right now it's even more expensive. Fires of Outland. Okay, so one pack alone is $15. So one full box, 3,471 bucks, 2,300 bucks, still sealed, right? But it only holds like 36 packs, and you need 1 in 484 packs. So you need that times 10, which is like 20,000 bucks. So it's easier just to buy the card. What I realized is that these cards also showed up in special edition series. What happens? Your boy buys all the special edition series, right? At this time it is called Archives. I don't know, it's not an official expansion, it was like a promo, so it's called WoW TCG Archives. And they basically had all the different expensive loot cards combined in one series. Yeah, this is what it was called. And that's quite cool.
Hey YouTube, my name is WildRule39248.
So this is basically also a YouTube video, the same way I open the packs. And he's pulling the Spectral Tiger card, the most expensive card in his series. So of course a lot of people watch that. And it's very boring, right? If you don't like these cards, it's very boring to watch. But you can imagine that this has 30 or 40,000 views. So that card is 100% sold. It's also back in 2011. Same time. Obviously, I was right on the hype time. So then I realized that this was sold out very quickly, right? They didn't print it anymore. And the price only went up because they stopped releasing the series. So after a couple of expansions, so I think Fields of Honor was the last one by the game developer. Then they switched the contract. There weren't any cards printed, I think, for like 2 years. Then it was picked up by Cryptozoic or something, like a card developer, trading card developer, and they called it quits after another 7 expansions, right? It was just not as profitable for them, this trading card game. No, not that many people played the game. They were more in it for the loot cards, which wasn't as profitable, apparently. There was no mass adoption of the trading card game, like for example with Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, where they have way bigger followings when it comes down to the trading cards. However, I did find something which was a problem and a benefit at the same time. I found that there was this deck called Mechtherodon's Lair Raid deck, which basically had packs in it which had a 1 in 12 chance for this card. 1 in 12, the best odds ever. The problem was all of these decks were sold out because these decks were not made that many, right? They were maybe made a couple thousand, and everybody knew this apparently. So what did I do? I emailed every single store online that sold this trading card and asked them if they had any. Turns out it took about 2 to 4 weeks to get all the replies in. There was one shop, I think it was from the UK if I remember correctly, or it was from the States, which mentioned, yeah, I looked in the attic and we got like 36 boxes. I'm like, cool, how much? And he was like $16 per raid deck. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, well, it's gonna be like something like $480, but the shipping is also $480 because these raid decks, they're huge, right? And they had to ship them all the way overseas to me. So I was like, let me make you a weird request. How about you just sell me the packs and you keep the plastic and the cards and the raid decks and whatever. I just need those small packs which are inside. He's like, that's weird though, but sure, if that's what you want, let me send it to you. So he put it in a like a bubbly envelope, shipped it to me. I had it like 2 days later. I also recorded that on YouTube and I was very happy. So I might play the recording for you.
Oh my god, that's sick. Spectral Tiger. What is it? 4th pack. This is sick, guys. Yeah, of course, I'm happy.
And I pulled like 3 of the Spectral Tiger cards out of like, I think something like, I don't even know, 20 packs that I got. 3 of these Spectral Tiger cards. This made me obviously like, at the time I sold these cards for, this is 10 years ago, so the price has gone up. I think I sold them for 500 or 600 euros. So the return was like absolutely insane. Spent like $400. I did get some other shit from him as well. And I made like, I think 2,000, 2,500. It was my biggest win in this entire thing, right? This was already at the time that I slowed my DACardworld down because the thing is they made some mistakes. Sometimes they didn't note it as gift, so I had to pay like $400 in tax, like import duty charges, so it became less attractive. At this time I had even an account manager at DACardworld. His name was, I think, Rob or Ron or something like this, and he used to like text me because he called me, but the charges were too high for overseas calls. Right now in this day and age it's all free and shit, right? But at that time I still had to pay to receive like international calls. And he just told me like, hey, I got these new cards, I made this deal, are you interested? And he had no idea he was dealing with like a 17, 18-year-old kid trying to flip all this shit, right? Big problem, not that much. I just took it into consideration for my cost, right? Then, when I was basically fully operational, you can imagine that if you have 200 of these booster packs, they got like 15 cards each. You're just looking for these 1, 2, 3 cards. You end up with a whole ton of shit cards, right? So I found a place which was in the next city, big city in the Netherlands, in Dutch Harlem, closest to my place basically. And I just texted them, hey, I see you guys sell these World of Warcraft cards. Would you be interested in buying them from me really cheap and just distribute them among the people who play in your store as a gift? And I sold them like full cardboard boxes full of cards. They were heavy as fuck. They paid shipping and like $50, right? Because otherwise I was gonna throw them in the trash because I don't like this game. I'm not a collector, I'm just in it for the money, right? But then again, those $50, I sent them like 2 parcels a week. And these guys were like, hey, slow down maybe a little bit because we have so many cards from you right now. What is it that you're doing? Are you actually a collector or where do you get these cards from? And I was like, well, I'm just a trader. Right? I trade these cards and that's how I make money. It's like, oh, that's a cool side hustle. They invited me to the store. I never went because I was just in it for the money. I didn't have to make friends or anything like that, right? But yeah, made a lot of money with these trading cards. It was an amazing experience. So overall, made a lot of mistakes as well. You know, taxes, import duties at least, binders, equipment, the wrong booster boxes to buy. Sometimes I bought like 3 booster boxes for like $300, didn't get anything because I didn't do proper research on everything, right? I was just too excited, I had too much money. But all in all, I think I made about 16 to 18,000 euros at the time. But there was one big problem, right? There was one moment where it all collapsed, everything went downhill. So it lasted quite long. I think it lasted like 7 to 10 months, something like this. It's a long time ago, right? 10 years ago. But I read that from my email documentation. So how it ended basically is I was on this marketplace.nl and I was selling all these dumpster cards, right? All these trash cards. I had some loot cards on here as well. And I got an email, right? I got an email from this guy who was like whatever, Johnson, just a common Dutch name, at hotmail.com. And he was like, hey, very cool what you're doing. I see you're selling a lot of cards. I'm interested, I want to buy these bulk packages, and not one, maybe like 5 of them. And I was like, all right, fair enough. And he's like, how do you even get all these cards? They're not that for sale. Well, I just replied him, I'm a trader. I import these cards, I resell them. So if you're looking for a consistent flow of cards, I got you. And he replied me back. I'm like, oh, that's so cool, It's like, you must make a lot of money with this. And I'm like, why the fuck do you care? Just buy my cards, right? I just need to get rid of these cards. And I was like, yeah. It's quite good money indeed. How many packages would you like? Once I hit him with reply, the email changed. So I received johnson@hotmail.com, and now it changed to johnson@dutchirs.nl. And I was like, what the fuck? So I stopped emailing him, right? I just blocked him. And I was like, fucking IRS on my case, It's like the Dutch tax services, right? So it was quiet for like a week. Then I got another email, bert@hotmail.com. I reply him just to check, and it says bert@dutchirs.nl. Again, the tax man. So I was like, fuck me, they're onto me, right? Probably they just see my ads too much, that I'm promoting this shit, and they want to know how I make so much money. And I already explained them half the story. So my parents at the time, because I was living with my parents and I was a minor under Dutch law for like half the period, got a letter from the Dutch IRS like, hey, we see your son is doing a lot of online activity, and in the Netherlands you can only make 6,800 euros a year. If you make more with any side hustle, it's taxable income, right? So they said like either has to pay up or you get a fine, because that's like what you're doing is like tax evasion. And I'm like, bro, it's not that serious. I'm just like, I'm selling secondhand goods. And that is where the debate was. Is this secondhand goods or not? I said yes, they said no, right? They said you approach this as a commercial business. You know exactly what you're doing. You're a very smart lad, but this is not the right way. You need to pay tax. And I just said, fuck off. You can suck my dick. I said that in the email, which wasn't smart, of course. Because it's secondhand goods, I open it up, and I'm a reseller, which you can't do anything about. So my parents got a fine. My parents told me to shut down my little hustle operation. At that time, they had no clue how much money I made, because I did it through PayPal, so they couldn't see, right? And of course, when I told them, they were like, well, you're not getting any money from us anymore. You just have to pay for your own shit because you made so much money. So in the next, I think 2 or 3 months, I blew all that money. I bought a new bed, I bought a new gaming computer, I bought a TV, I redid my whole bedroom with like neon lights and shit. And basically, I bought a fridge for my room, I bought a new bike, I blew all the money, right? So I went from like, I think something like 16,000 to like 2,000, which obviously wasn't the best decision. Yet it was an amazing experience. I had learned about marketing, about supply and demand, about import, about resale, about wholesale, about retail, all these different things basically. And I did return to that ID many times, because this is all 2011, right? And I did return to the original ID in 2012, 2014, and even 2015. I went back to the ID to search for these cards that has brought me so much money. I could never repeat it because they basically stopped printing it. The balance, the supply and demand wasn't there anymore. Not as active as when I used to do it. So I was at the right place at the right time. I had a big opportunity. I was not afraid to take risk. And basically, yes, it made me some good money, and it learned me many things. It taught me many things. Right? Throughout the process, I learned so many different things, like, yes, watch out for the tax man. That's a very important one. Yes, take risk, but take calculated risk, right? And this is basically this was the moment where I went into a stage of inactivity, business-wise, But every time I looked back at my later ventures, it's all based on this project. Not necessarily what you've seen in part one, right? The drop shipping and stuff, that was not really the beginning. This was the beginning. I had an idea, I made it happen, I saw the money, I saw the return, and it was just in general an amazing process because I loved this game, right? So I could relate to the people very well, I could sell them very well. Overall, it was an amazing process that paid off quite well. So that's my World of Warcraft trading card game business story, right? How that went for episode 2. Stay tuned for episode 3, where we're going to take a fast forward in the next couple of years. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Share your thoughts down below about this crazy story, and I'll see you guys in the next one.